Preschool Days is the 14th episode of the 7th season of Rugrats. This is also the name of I think, a four-part Rugrats spin-off series with some very interesting animation style. I have not actually seen that in any detail, so I'll discuss that separately. I can purely only talk about this episode, but based on this episode alone, I'm not overly enthusiastic about that TV series. This seemed like a really fun idea. Susie and Angelica are both going to preschool, and they're both quite competitive. Mostly Angelica, who wants to be the best preschooler ever, and she really sucks up to the teacher. And Susie doesn't really get a look in to begin with, but then Susie starts to get the positive attention of the teacher, and Angelica doesn't like that. And then they do something, they break something of value to the teacher, and they spend pretty much the second half of this episode, it's a double feature, and pretty much the second half of the episode is them trying to rectify this problem that they've caused. And honestly, it's kind of dull. It started off okay, and I think the environment is well animated. The preschool setting works very well. We have some other kids in this. There's a kid called Harold who's pretty awesome, but we didn't really get to know most of the other kids in any detail, which I think was a really missed opportunity. And the teacher was so annoying. I really didn't like her at all. And it's not even a love to hate her. I didn't find her fascinating. I just found her to be so irritating that I did not care for her at all. So when they broke something of value to her, I really didn't care about that either. And then what they did with trying to fix it, I just thought was really boring, and it just wasn't very good. And I don't think it represented a typical day in preschool. And I think this was a good opportunity for the episode to do that, to show what preschool might actually be like, and to have them having, various comments and thoughts on their typical day. But what we got instead, I guess they were trying to make it a bit more action-packed, suspenseful, but it was just boring. The first half was really good. As it was being set up, I rather liked. I thought that worked really well. And, as I said, the animation of the actual preschool was pretty good. But my favourite bit in the whole thing was at the very end of the episode. And at the very end, so I guess this is a spoiler for something that happens in the last minute, but at the end, the babies learn that Angelica will be going back to preschool pretty much every day, and they celebrate. And I thought that was so fun and so sweet. Their bully has finally found something to occupy her. So that bit I liked, and the beginning I liked, but the actual narrative, once it kicked in, I just thought was really dull. So I'm not jumping with excitement at the prospect of watching the I think it's four-part Preschool Days series. I will watch it eventually, but this episode, it just could have been so much more interesting, and unfortunately the narrative wasn't that interesting. The teacher was just so annoying. Definitely not a good episode for me.